And now for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. And welcome to episode number 409, 11 years of this nonsense. That's right. For Friday, January 5th, 2024. Happy New Year. And with me, as always, as he always is, my friend, my colleague, and I'm going to tell you, a guy who is just as surprised as I am that both our teams are 11-5 and in the playoffs, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
Isn't it exciting?
It is very exciting. It is very exciting. My team can take the division this week.
Wow, Philadelphia is just handing it to you.
They did.
Wait. Let me correct myself. Philadelphia and the referees in the league.
No.
Are,
Okay, no.
are handing it to your Dallas Cowboys.
I should make that my rant this week, but yeah, no.
You know, I have to say in your defense that they made poor decisions on both parts, and everybody knows
doing it 3 times in a row when the universe is saying don't do it is like poor decision making. Yeah, and by the way, there were at least 3 penalties on that play on Detroit. So I won't hear it. I won't hear it. I don't care who reported.
I think that what we've been shown, again, we're talking a little NFL here, but it's important. What we've been shown,
we'll get it out of the way.
Is that where the NFL has gone wrong is that they do not have full-time referees.
Oh, that's without question.
That has to change. You have to, you have to treat this like this, and this is their full-time thing. You have a group of younger referees that are moving through the system that they're being able to taught, just like you do in the college ranks. And they really need to figure that one out.
They need to step it up and pay because a lot of people don't know that the referees they're not like really highly paid folks, right? It's not a high paid thing. They get paid, but not very much.
And that's the fix. So what so first of all, we fixed that. Second of all,
fix as in repair, not as in conspiracy theory fix, right? It's not, the posts that annoy me the most are like, the referees want Dallas to win. It's like, oh God, Dallas is the most penalized team in all of NFL. So, if the referees want Dallas to win, they're not doing a very good job.
They're not doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
But to that point, what is up with Philadelphia? I think Philadelphia is just not as good as we thought they were. I think something is off with Jalen Hurts. I think something is off with the quarterback. Okay.
I think he got hurt. He got hurt midway through the season. And I think after that, you can really see, at least by my eyeballs, you can really see something going on. And then their defense is just falling apart.
I think it's more. Well, I think you're right, but I think it's more than that, because when they pan down to the sidelines of the Philadelphia Eagles during a game, nobody's happy. It's like they just got coal in their stockings. They're just all
it's weird. It's very weird.
Very upset. And it starts with the coach. I don't know anything about the coach.
Oh, he's got the most punchable face in the NFL.
Yeah, he's like he just drank lemonade that was too sour all the time.
Yep.
And I'm going to, and then
as a Cowboys fan, that makes me happy. But yeah,
I know it makes you happy. But on the other side, you have the happiest sidelines in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, which they have a positive. Here's what I have to say about it, because we've had our fair share of Deshaun Watson talk. The Joe Flacco story is wonderful.
It's an amazing story. And by the way, I called it. We should go back and find the clip.
You did. You said that they were going to be 11-6 this year.
Yep, and they were going to go to the playoffs. And I thought they would take the division as well, but Baltimore had something to say about
Baltimore's
that.
pretty good team.
Yeah,
maybe the best team in the league right now.
They're amazing right now,
and they're peaking at the right time. Lamar Jackson just threw a perfect game. 18 to 21 for 5 touchdowns.
Yeah,
you can't do.
I know
you can't do any better than that. But no, we're very excited about Joe Super Joe Flacco. And it was, I got to tell you this little inside story, but this is funny. So we're with my family and we're opening gifts for Christmas. And my sister got my mom a portrait framed, and it had all it was Jesus Christ and all the names for Jesus. It's like Redeemer, Savior, Holy of Holies, like the whole thing, and she loves it.
It's like a word cloud, like a word cloud, like a thing.
Yeah, like a word cloud. Yeah.
Okay,
and it was beautiful, and my mom loved it. And I looked over to the kids that were all there, and I said, "It's a Joe Flacco print." Blasphemer.
Blasphemer. That's
but
gonna
anyways,
go. That would have gone really well over with your mom, I think.
It was. That's why I whispered it. I didn't want to hurt her. I mean, like, how would you feel if you got something and you thought it was Jesus, but it was really Joe Flacco? I mean, nobody wants that. But anyways, we're fairly excited. We were at the Jets game on Thursday night, where it was one of the most powerful games I've ever been to, because everyone was in such a good mood. Besides the fact that they were drinking all day.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were happy drinking. It wasn't the mean drinking that normally happens.
Exactly. Everybody was celebrating, for sure.
Anyways, what else is going on with your
nothing other than the fact that if you're watching this on video, you can see that I'm still not back at home, working from the road, as it were. But we have that. We've talked.
You're in a WeWork. It looks like you're in a WeWork.
What? What do you? No, I'm in the bedroom of our little place up here in Montecito, which is right near Santa Barbara. It's basically Santa Barbara for those of you who are thinking about it, and we're spending the week between New Year's and when everybody seems to be going back to work, which is next week. So we'll be up here for a few more days, and it's been lovely. It's not a WeWork. It's definitely not a WeWork. Yeah.
And you haven't been traveling. You've been enjoying. How's the weather? It's been beautiful as always.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it is. Mid 50s, low 60s, bright sunshine. It's like, it's like when that opening scene of the Simpsons, with the blue.
That's your life every morning.
Totally. Absolutely.
Don't you get tired of it? Don't you get tired of perfection? Don't you want to come to snowy Cleveland, Ohio? Which, by the way, it's been really mild. Like we barely had any snow in December. It was not a white Christmas. But today, as we record this on Thursday, the 4th, it's snowing. It's beautiful snow. Everything.
Oh, that's nice. I do miss that. Nice. I miss snow. I miss having. I miss the snowing and the just snowed part of snowing. I don't miss the slushy gray roads and 3 days after it snowed kind of thing.
Good. Well, you can come to Cleveland right now and you will get the fresh, wonderful snow, because if you come tomorrow, it's not going to work. It's going to be the slushy, ugly kind of snow. So, all right. So we got a good show going here. What are we doing?
We do have a good show, despite the fact that it is the week between New Year's and the New Year, as it were. And typically a very slow news week, but we do have one. We'll talk a little bit about how, January 1st brought a number of new changes, but maybe the biggest in content is that Mickey, that's right, Disney's Mickey, has lost their copyright on the Steamboat Willie, or did they? We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about X for a very short time. We promise it's not going to be a long time, but there was some news over the holiday about its valuation being cut by Fidelity. Then we'll get to the chief event officer. That's right. Time Magazine has appointed a chief event officer, and what that might mean to the publishing industry. We'll have some time for some questions that came in over the holiday, and talk about a wonderful question from our friend Clayton down in Perth. And we'll get his answer for him. And then we'll rant and rave a little bit. And Joe will talk a little bit about on creators and downsizing for 2024 and how the creator economy may be starting to aggregate a bit. And I will talk about how 2023 saw the ad industry try to fix what are called MFA sites and clickbaiting sites. And how they did there wasn't so awesome. So what that might mean for us as marketers. So some good stuff, despite the fact. Yeah.
Oh, before we start, you and I talked about it, that we've got a lot of good things going on. We've got our YouTube channel, if you haven't subscribed to that, at This Old Marketing, but also what could really help us are reviews. So if any of
Please.
you, we would like more people to watch and listen to This Old Marketing. So if you use Spotify,
I think you can do more than one review, can't you? Can't you review it more than, like, if you've already reviewed it, or can you?
If you
only
reviewed
put in
it
one
like
review?
years ago, you can review it again.
Yeah.
But we would ask anyone that's listening to this that enjoys This Old Marketing on a regular basis, if you
has for the last 11 years,
we would like to be growing. We've been told that reviews help.
We have.
You and I had a conversation about this where we think that's a thing.
We don't know.
We read up on it. It
That's
says
right.
it's a thing, but we're not sure. But we think it is.
Yeah.
So we would like some reviews. Whether you
we're trying to feed the algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we should, because you said is that right? Is this year?
We're in our 11th year. Yeah, we're in our 11th year of doing this.
What are we doing? Why are we wasting our lives away? I hope we've been helpful.
I don't know that we're wasting our lives away. Our audience,
the listeners,
wasting their they may be wasting their lives.
Yeah, because this is just you and I catching up. We're catching up from the holidays. How you doing? Let's talk about some football. What's some marketing stuff that happened?
Get some insight into the year.
Insight. Nobody ever gets insight. I don't think people get insight from this
Some
show.
people have told me. There is a rumor out there that occasionally we provide an insight or two.
It has been even over the holidays. We received some emails.
From people so lovely,
how important we are in their lives, and I was like, wow,
yeah,
it feels like a responsibility.
And by the way, I will say this: consistency. Because here's the thing: we did shows over the holidays. Even though one of them came right before New Year's and one of them came right before Christmas, we did shows over the holidays. So I'm giving us big ups for that, because so many of the podcasts I listen to are like, we're going away for the holiday. We're not going to do a show. We're not going to do anything over the holiday. We're leaving, and it's like, I think that's not right. I think that tells me you're not committed.
The one that I know, you're right. The one that I noticed was the Prof G podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Where he did the one, like, even Pivot, and they do the one little special episode, and then basically Scott Galloway said, "Hey, I'm done." Which how hard is it to do a special episode?
It's not. It's just not. It's just not for them. And I think
it's important. Well, here's the thing, and you and I know about this because when I went off on my sabbatical a little bit, when you interrupt regularly scheduled programming in any way, it can hurt your long-term listenership.
Totally.
Even if it's a week.
Yep.
Like, you need to delay. You need to be Norm Peterson. You go to Cheers and you get that beer every day. You have something witty to say every day. You need to do that, but whatever. So
yeah. We've seen it in the data, and data don't lie.
Really? Well, unless there's lots of bots or AI.
Well, yeah.
Or depending on which state you're from.
That's true. Well, that's true as well.
We won't go too deep into that, though. Not for this episode.
No. Yeah. No. Although the Iowa caucuses are coming up, and I don't know, we should probably.
This is going to be a crazy year.
It's going to be.
Are we going to cover politics on this show in 2024?
Here's the. I don't know. We got to think about it, because in many ways, I think we can't avoid it and shouldn't avoid it, but because there is a marketing and brand and content story to talk about there for sure with all of them. Mm-hmm. And it's going to, AI is going to come into it at some point. So I can't think that we'll avoid it. And there's bound to be some headlines for sure. But anyway, we'll sort that out.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple months off here, and then when we get into the second quarter, it's going to get nutty. It's going to be like a nutty bar.
What is it? Is it Michael Keaton and Beetlejuice? Is it Beetlejuice? Let's get nuts. Or is that it's Batman? That's when he's Michael Keaton's Batman. Let's get nuts.
He says that? Batman never said let's get nuts.
No, it's it's
Mr. Mom, maybe.
No. It's him as it's him as Bruce Wayne when the very first Batman with Michael Keaton, and when Joker comes in and he's at the fireplace and he's got his fireplace poker and he smashes the thing. He goes, "Let's get nuts." The audience will back me up on this.
Okay.
Sure.
No. I did. Isn't there another one coming out where Michael Keaton is back as Batman?
It's out. It's been out. It's
Oh,
it's the Flash.
oh, did it
The
do? It didn't do
multi-dimensional
very
Flash.
well.
Oh, it was awful. It was so bad.
Oh, did you watch it? Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
did. Yes, I did. It was so
Oh.
bad.
Speaking of movies, I watched Holdovers. Really enjoyed that movie. With
I've
Paul
heard
Giamatti.
that's really good.
Really
Yeah.
good movie. I'm
Wait a
very,
minute. Well,
very.
I saw, I'm thinking of something different. I went and saw that. That was the movie I went and saw.
Yeah. No, it's. I
was
really
thinking
enjoyed.
something. I was thinking something different. There was a series that came out recent. Anyway, I'm blanking. Holiday brain.
Okay.
All right. Let's get to our show.
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got?
All right. We're going to start off with Mickey Mouse, as it were, the one that's not going to acquire Apple. And the story comes to us courtesy of Deadline. There are a number of mainstream outlets pointing to this, but this article was particularly good. The headline here is that Mickey Mouse hits the public domain, but don't expect to get a free ride on Steamboat Willie. He's really proud of himself there with that. As of today, the traditionally productive Walt Disney Company will have to deal with an onslaught of Mickey Mouse parodies, mockeries, and likely rather explicit variations of the iconic character as it slips into the public domain. Sorta. In the sober light of 2024, Steamboat Willie, the 1928 short that effectively launched the empire that Walt built, can now be used by anyone and everyone. The legal status of Mickey and Minnie Mouse from Steamboat Willie and Plain Crazy from earlier that same year has been long fought over and probably not something to which Disney was looking forward to. Yet, in a year that also sees Virginia Woolf's groundbreaking Orlando, Peter Pan, Charlie Chaplin's The Circus, Buster Keaton's The Cameraman, Tigger from the Winnie the Pooh are all now in the public domain. And if you're anticipating a Steamboat Willie free-for-all, well, think again. The article then goes on to talk about how the lawyers are waiting in the wings because really it's just about that one thing with Mickey Mouse. So if it goes even a little bit beyond that, they're going to be all over people with the copyright thing. So I think there's a really interesting content and story here, but I want to get your take on this. What do you think about this being?
Yeah, I had to do some reading on it because I thought it was similar to what happened with Winnie the Pooh, which is not the case.
It's not. It's different. Yeah.
And Winnie the Pooh is not an original Disney copyright anyways. So
right. That's right.
There's a lot of difference there, but it looks like from reading this article and a couple other ones, I mean, you've got the Disney is lawyered up all the way up on this one, and they are looking, and we've already seen, you and I talked about it before the show, that there is already a Steamboat Willie or Steamboat Mickey horror show that's been shot.
That's right.
It's already now. I don't know.
Which was in the can months before.
It's in the can months before, but if it at all looks like the modern day Mickey Mouse, it's going to get shot down. I would be surprised if anything comes to light because of the restrictions and all the things that Disney has done over time to protect and they've done a pretty darn good job, especially with hiring a massive amount of lawyers. Right. But what's the content play on your side?
Well, it's interesting because when you start thinking about it, so what it brings up every year, because this story sort of emerges every year because we're starting to get into the years where 100 years later, the idea is that we're going to see more and more and more media properties come into public domain. And these are always just a reminder of it. So Steamboat Willie aside, because to exactly to your point, when you think about the idea of walking up to the dark cave and you can hear the Disney lawyers growling on the inside, that's enough to turn you away. Like you're not going to throw that effort out there. Right. I mean, why risk it? Right. But what was interesting to me was the list of all the other things that are coming into public domain. And that's only going to continue in the years to come, just more and more and more, where it is a little more like Winnie the Pooh, where the entire concept, the entire story is in the public domain now. Mm-hmm. And you can retell that story. Frankenstein's one that's been around for a long time, which is great. And, at one point, Frankenstein was copyrighted. You weren't allowed to make a story of Frankenstein, but of course you can now. And many of those novels, many of those, and now increasingly movies and characters are going to start coming into the public domain. And I think, especially as we start moving into AI, where you can start to have some of that stuff generated, I think you're going to start to see a lot more, and probably more on the consumer brand side, really start to exploit these things. These are great stories that are coming to life that can just simply be, copied from a story structure and story standpoint and applied with, very similar, that would normally get you into trouble, very similar characters, but honestly be, the brand or, whatever you wanted to do, right? Whether it's a movie, whether it's a show, whether it's a documentary, whether it's a new, take on things, the Winnie the Pooh horror movie, that was fun and interesting and weird. And I think you're just going to see a lot more of that.
Well, I think, didn't we talk about in the past, like we as a content marketing program, you could go back to the books that already ran out of copyright and go back and we put your logo on and said compliments of whatever company and send them to your list and say, we're putting together the classics for you.
We talked about that with the daily, I think it was called the Daily Dracula, where the guy basically took the novel, which is now in the public domain, and released it on X. I think it was a daily tweet or an email. It was a daily email.
That's right.
That you could subscribe to, where you would basically get the novel fed to you one day or 1 week at a time. And basically you could read or enjoy the Daily Dracula, and he got tons of subscribers and monetized it. That's the kind of thing that I would see content creators doing and being able to take advantage of as sort of a side thing to whatever they're doing, right?
So if you're really like, hey, I can't come up with anything else original, let's just go back into all the stuff that's expired copyright and see what we can leverage. And then you'll look like a marketing superstar.
That's right.
Look at this program I'm creating.
That's right.
It's amazing.
Well, as we said in the thing, it's Peter Pan, right? So comes to public domain this year. So how many ads are we going to see this year, and how many pieces of content and marketing are we going to see with Peter Pan all the way through it, right? Different versions of it, different renderings of it, different ideas of it, and it's crazy. I think it's going to be, and this only continues to snowball as we get more and more into the future, because now we're starting to get into things like films, it was novels for a long time, and all of that, because this was basically 90 years later.
Pan's Revenge, like some kind of
Pan's Revenge
horror.
Why is it always horror? Why is it always
Peter
horror?
Poltergeist? I don't know why.
Peter
I don't know why. Because
Peter
because if it's horror, you can get around. I mean, it's nothing like what the company and what the trademark holder in the past would do. So you don't have any, like, you'd never. That's why Winnie the Pooh thing didn't have any problem, because you'd never expect a company like Disney to come out with Blood and Honey, the Return of Pooh,
they would
whatever
never.
it was.
Yeah. They would never.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on, shall we? And very quickly cover our friends at X, because, well, it's worth covering and talking about for a brief moment, because it is actually
and leads into one of my predictions from a couple weeks ago.
One of my predictions as well, right? So from the prediction show, right? So the story that we'll cover, of course, there are a number of outlets covering this, but we'll cover the story coming out of Axios, which is Elon Musk's X gets another valuation cut from Fidelity. And I love the picture that they chose for this, which is Grandma Musk in his aviator jacket.
It's like Howard. He looks like Howard Hughes there for some reason.
He looks like somebody's like that it's that older brother that comes back having lived in New York for a little too long, and basically just, he
comes up to the little brother and ruffles the hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
but
buddy.
He needs money. He needs money because he owes the mob, right? That's
out
what
a pack
he
of
looks
Reds
like in this picture. Yeah, exactly.
He has a lot. You got to admit, he's got a lot of range. Like every photo you see, you could say, "Oh, okay, that's a different Elon." He's got 7 or 8 of them packed away.
That's a different version of Grandma Musk.
Mm.
Anyway, the article opens up by saying Fidelity has again marked down the value of its shares in X Holdings, which the mutual fund giant helped Elon Musk buy for $44 billion when the company was known as Twitter. By the numbers, Fidelity believes that X is worth 71.5% less than at the time of its purchase, according to new disclosure that runs through the end of November 23. Fidelity revalues private shares on a 1-month lag. That includes a 10.7% cut during November, during which time Musk told boycotting X advertisers to go F themselves during an onstage interview at the New York Times.
Oh, classy move. Classy move.
Always works out well
Always
when you
good,
do that.
Yeah. The
Really
sales
good
guys
move.
love that one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they did. In terms of publicly traded comps, Meta stock rose 4.9% in November, while Snap shares climbed 38.2%. Snap, by the way, last year had an incredible year that nobody's talking about. So,
well, I mean, if you remember back in 21, their stock went up to like 60 some bucks, and then it dropped to like 6 or 7. Well, and it's had a really good rebound since then.
Yeah, they've had a really good rebound. They had a really good year last year.
They've got a corner on messaging. I mean,
they do.
You think of them as social media, but it really is messaging.
Yeah, you talk about not your target market. It's like I never see it because, of course, I'm not on it. But the kids, that is the way they trade their snaps, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Snap for messaging, and then you've got really TikTok and more than Instagram. Although I've heard a lot of people say they're going back to Instagram. So,
yeah, I guess
we'll see. I don't know. I'm not on any of these things. I'm not even. I can't talk at all. All I can talk about is X. That's what I'm an expert on X. That's it.
Well,
I'm an expert on X, and I never post. I never post there.
Yeah, it's an easier thing to do these days, for sure. Well,
what do you think?
Here's the thing.
What do you think is going to happen with?
I think this is the where there's that moment when a dam breaks, that there's a big leak coming through, and then there's sort of like one big rock sort of goes bloop, plops out, and then all of a sudden the dam. I think this is that, because look, Fidelity's investment into X was not big. It was a very small percentage of what the other ones did. In terms of investment size, I think it's $30 million or something like that. So this Fidelity's exposure here is not.
They just want to get it off the books at this point.
But they finally. That's the key here, right? Where the others are, have been reluctant to get it off their books because it's gonna look awful. I think this is the first of many that we're going to start to see, because once that dam goes, once one of the major ones goes, it's all over. And of course, as we've talked about, this is what Musk wants. I think is he wants this to go so that he can buy it for a discount. But we'll see what happens. I mean,
that's the hope, unless somebody else buys it. But I think he wants to buy it, own full control over it.
Yeah.
As they mark it down to nothing here, and then I believe that he'll rename it back to Twitter.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that way. He wants to get this to rock bottom.
Yeah.
And then he's going to clean up. He's going to clean it up by big, and then everybody's calling. I mean, I was watching John Oliver the other day, and even John Oliver said, "I won't call it X. I'm calling it Twitter." And everyone we know that still basically calls it Twitter, even though we try to use the right nomenclature and say X. But I think that's what's going to happen. So
that's interesting.
Maybe by the end of the year, it'll be Twitter. You'll have the advertising coming back. Everybody's starting to feel good about it.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
Elon will be sort of out of the picture because politics are going to play, number 1, 2, and 3 role in our attention in the United States.
I think
it's going to all come back.
Yeah, I think he's literally burning the ship at the shores.
I don't know.
I don't think that ship is coming back. Yeah,
it's interesting. I've got 2 children, as you know. Well, 2 not children anymore, 22 and 20, and they're on X. That's their channel. Discord and
really
X are their 2 channels. Discord, X, and YouTube for the podcasters that they follow. You know, they don't.
All right.
They don't actually listen to podcasts. They watch them on YouTube.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's kind of the formula. And then I watch the other kids their age, and they're on X a lot. That's where they get, and especially for sports. I mean, it's just like sports news is
the sports, the players and celebrities are still
they're all on X. So that's not changing. That has not changed. The most influential people in the world, for the most part, their number one go-to when they're releasing something is X from a newsworthy standpoint.
Well, I think you're still seeing a lot of that. I mean, look, you and I both felt it. I know I felt it, and I know you felt it when you deleted your account. And I don't know if you've deleted your account.
No, I just said I'm gone.
So I actually deleted there right now. Account. But I felt it. I mean, when you're you spend whatever 13 years and more, almost 15 years building up, sunk costs, basically, like, the amount of time you spent on it. And, I don't have near the following you do, but 60,000 followers. It's like, I can see a celebrity going, I can't lose this, right? I can't start over again. I get that, right? I get that. And you got to figure they're just in the background, sort of crossing their fingers that it just doesn't get any worse, because at a certain point, if he continues this, and maybe you're right, maybe he gets to a point where he breaks it down so far that it is broken, and then he buys it and starts to rehabilitate it again, and people just go sort of wipe their brow and go, okay, he's now, at least I can sort of bite my tongue and be there. I don't know. It
seems like it reminds me, this is maybe not a good analogy, but like Rocky Balboa. Like Mickey was trying to break Rocky down. He had nothing left, he's just that
metaphor does not
he said, work. Now's the time. Or like when he starts and he starts, he goes, go right hand and then go back left. That kind of
this
thing.
Is not
it's going to be a great comeback story that I don't want to have happen because I'm not an Elon fan. But you can see the setup. Elon's smart.
You can see the setup.
He's going to own the whole thing, and he's going to make a huge turnaround, and it's going to be profitable in 25, and we're all going to be eating crow.
So goes our predictions. We will see.
That's my prediction is that advertising makes a turnaround on X.
Yeah, I know your prediction is that, and you are 100% wrong on that.
I will be wrong. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, speaking of advertising returning, our wonderful advertisers are still with us, and so we should probably pay a couple of bills, shouldn't we?
Let's do that.
Your sales software should not be a bummer. When you step inside your CRM, you should feel equipped to do your best work. That's the magic of HubSpot Sales Hub. The new Sales Hub is designed to help you win. With an intuitive prospecting workspace and AI-powered tools to reduce your workload, closing big deals is no big deal at all. Get AI-powered tools like ChatSpot that are tailor-made to help you automate steps across the sales pipeline so teams can take back their time and spend it on more impactful tasks. Close more deals and get on track for your best Q1 yet. Learn about HubSpot Sales Hub at HubSpot.com/sales. Want a great new podcast for 2024? Well, try Truth, Lies, and Workplace Culture, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Truth, Lies, and Workplace Culture, well, it features husband and wife team Al and Leanne Elliott as they dispel myths, impart wisdom, and answer all your question about finding, keeping, and motivating great people. Just like Joe and I, one of their recent episodes featured their predictions about what trends will dominate the 2024 workplace. You can follow Truth, Lies, and Workplace Culture wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Have you listened to Upstairs at Eric's yet? I mean, I made that ad specifically with that music because I want you to go listen to Upstairs at Eric's. And did you do that? Have you done that yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
Can you make that? Can you make that a to-do?
Do I do anything you tell me to do?
No, you don't.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah. I'm gonna Upstairs at Eric's.
I got that.
You will recognize some of the songs. I guarantee you.
They were
big hits.
Absolutely. No,
Allison
now I'm
Moyet
going
is
to. I think
unbelievable.
you only have to tell me 5 times.
Okay.
And now I'm going to. Do you think that HubSpot has to, like, I think we should talk to them. I don't think you have to say the audio destination for business professionals every time.
It's in the copy. I'm just going to tell you, it's in the copy.
I know, but it's just, I don't know.
I know.
I'd like something shorter. Like maybe we can.
Brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Yeah, done.
There. How about that?
Yeah,
that's good.
WNBC. Right?
That's good. Speaking of Paul Giamatti, right there.
Yeah,
great role.
There you go.
Great role. I think that's the first role that I remember Giamatti in. And then he was great in Sideways.
Oh, he was awesome in Sideways. Which that movie reminded me. I mean, it's the same director, obviously, but yeah.
It's you could hear from the beginning of the movie where you hear the static in the background, like it's an older movie playing. I'm like, good touch. Good touch.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
All right. Next.
All right. Yes, let's go to our next story here, which is a really fascinating one and also weirdly fits into our predictions, especially mine, by the way, which comes to us courtesy of Digiday. And this is Time appoints its first chief events officer as publishers double down on events in 2024. This was really fascinating to me. The article opens up by saying Time today has announced the newly created role of chief events officer in a move that's emblematic of the media industry's fervor toward events revenue heading into 2024. Dan McSai, Time's executive editor and VP of events, was promoted to the C-suite after the media company experienced a 70% year-over-year increase in U.S. events revenue in 2023 and a 14% increase year-over-year in international events revenue, according to Time CEO Jessica Sibley. I imagine that meeting went, hey, Jessica, who's the one who brought you 70% year-over-year growth? Hey, who's that? Maybe you want to give me a promotion, or maybe I go somewhere else. Dan says
it starts. Yeah, it starts with a D.
Yeah.
A. N. Yeah.
I'm gonna slide into your DMs here and just say, hey, who's the one who brought you that?
Dan would not do that. Dan would,
no. Yeah. All right.
No, Dan would come in with a 7 and a 0. And like,
yay,
70.
Just a t-shirt, just a big t-shirt that says 70%. Anyway, that's an impressive number. Time hosted 27 events in 2023, up from 10. So almost tripled the number of events in 2022. And next year, there are currently 33 events scheduled, including a new one tied to the soon-to-be launched Time Health franchise. The events team under McSai grew substantially as well, starting with 5 employees at the top of the year and ending 23 with 13, with roles ranging from design, sales, customer success, programming, and audience development. I mean, the article goes on, by the way, to just talk a little bit more about how much of a banner year it's going to be for events. And I by the way, we're seeing B2B do this as well. Salesforce, for example, doubling down on events and customer enablement events this year. We're seeing other B2B technologies do this. The number of companies that we're seeing doubling down on physical and digital events it's owned media. It's the new, like I said in my prediction, it is the new owned media favorite thing.
You talk about events. I talked in the predictions. I talked about print. I think if it comes to digital's very crowdy. Crowdy. It's crowdy. It's crowdy. That's the title of this podcast. Digital is crowdy. Is that Krauty or is it crowd E?
I don't know.
It could be. I just broke Robert because I can't speak this morning. No, seriously, it's hard to break through. It's hard to build that audience. So what are you going to do? I mean, in this case, in this article with Time, and they talk about Bloomberg as well, they have these amazing media brands and they're able to take them out and put together in-person experiences together. Salesforce, HubSpot, on and on, same thing. There's no moat in digital. I mean, it's like, something hits on TikTok or something hits on YouTube and then it goes back down. It's like, it's very hard to have any kind of consistent growth and audience building. It's like, well, what can we do to really get close to our customers and to differentiate? And I think in-person events and print are, you have to, if you are a responsible VP of marketing today, you have to be looking at those two as this is what we're going to focus on. Two of the 5 things we're going to focus on are in-person events and well, I think print as well.
And we can again take a lesson from what we're seeing in the media world, right? Because what we've seen in the streaming networks, especially in the streaming networks, but maybe even more pronounced or more enhanced, if you will, in broadcast media, the focus on events as a means of getting new audience, right? So you have to kind of turn everything into an event in order to get to pierce through the noise. In other words, create scarcity with this thing, whatever it is. So Amazon, for example, with its, is having tremendous success with the NFL, with its Thursday night football. And others are, we can see Netflix moving in this direction with event-oriented television. We can see Disney, we can see all the streaming networks sort of moving into how do we actually create event-oriented programming as a means of gathering audience so that they can discover all the other things that we have, to offer in terms of just on demand. And that creating that scarcity is what events do so brilliantly, whether it's, again, whether you're creating a webinar series or whether you're, it's if you didn't go, you missed it. And it creates that FOMO. It creates that I want to be part of something. It creates the social aspect of it. And it is the way when we're just awash in content to create some level of exclusivity to your audience.
Well, and if you look at, this is sort of the dirty little secret for events, and you and I know this because we've been doing it forever, but most people go to events for networking.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll say the speaker lineup and the education is second or third, but number one is almost always networking. You're not going to get the quality networking online. I don't care if you're in any of these membership groups. It just doesn't happen like an in-person occurrence.
Yeah.
And when we're all so connected online, but we don't have those deep connections, there's something missing.
That's right.
Somebody has to fill that. So if you're in an industry that doesn't have that event, well, you have the opportunity to be that event, to put on that event, to do something.
And by the way, that applies not just to attendees of the event. It also applies to your roster of speakers.
The talent. Yeah.
Yeah. When you have an event, and I actually validated this in talking with I'm talking with a new client, and they were talking about this event that they run where it's very high level people, right, in politics and business. And, it's basically, think of it like a Davos, but it's not a Davos. But think of it like that, where there's very high level people. Those people don't go to the event for the content, right? So think of like a TED conference, right?
Yeah.
Where all the speakers show up and do stuff. They're not going, those high level people aren't going to that event because they get the content. The content's a side hustle, basically. The reason they go is to be able to go back when they go back home and say, I was at the event and sitting next to me was XYZ, or sitting next to me was such and such, and I got to meet them and sit with them and actually, and so it raises their elevation in their business, because they get to tell their CEO or they get to tell their CMO, oh yeah, I got to sit next to the VP of marketing of so-and-so, or I got to sit next to the CMO of something else and got to chat and we got to talking about things. And that networking and partnerships and all the things are really the true, that's the value of a South by Southwest for sure, something like that. But it's that focusing in on that community too.
Oh, I remember early days South by Southwest. And I think when I went was 2008, and they have the opportunity to meet 25 people there that I've always wanted to meet. And like half of those people I'm still friends with today.
Yeah, that's right.
The value in that event is priceless. And I think if you don't have to put in a ton of effort at an event. You just have to be available. You just have to be around and go to the events and go to the networking, and you'll get business done. And it happens. And I think people are starting to recognize that, especially and you're not seeing anyone shy away from social media. marketing or anything like that, but we are seeing people make strategic decisions to do some things differently. And I think there's like, okay, we sort of we overcorrected a little bit, putting so much time and effort into the social, we forgot that, oh, we still have these other areas that we need to focus on. Print and in person.
And I'll add this one other wrinkle, which is also goes back to my predictions, but it's the the other place where we're seeing especially B2B marketers double down, which is in customer enablement, right? Which is becoming a huge driver of content marketing specifically, where I don't mean customer help like onboarding or training or those kinds of things on your product. I mean customer enablement, like the way Schneider Electric does their energy university, and they do, enabling engineers to be better engineers, not just better trained on a particular product, but, teach them engineering in a way. And so it's helping customers be better at their job. And we're seeing, again, technology companies really double down on this customer enablement content, which lends itself to events, right? Which lends itself to the online learning and digital learning, as well as physical events where you can go and gather with colleagues that use the same product and become better at your job because of it.
It's interesting. We talk about this all the time for individual content creators, but sometimes we forget, if the brand wants to be known as the leading expert in something, you can't only have the leading digital presence. You have to have more. And that's what we talked about at Content Marketing Institute. We were always like, contentmarketinginstitute.com. Absolutely. We need that to be a leading presence. But if we're going to take it to the next level, we've got to make sure that we have this event, Content Marketing World.
That's right.
Is the leading place to go in person. And we also have to make sure that Joe and Robert get out there and speak all over the world and spread that message. And we have to make sure that Joe and Robert and other people create books that become the guides for the, and you put all those together, and then you're like, okay, this group is the expert resource. And I don't know if they forget. I don't know if they forget. Yeah, I don't know if they forget. So strategery.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of organizations.
It's Crowdy. Is what it is. It's Crowdy.
I don't think a lot of organizations that have content marketing folks realize that it's more than just digital.
Right.
That they should be. Yeah. I talked with somebody this morning about creating a farm of speakers in your organization that can go out to different events, so you don't have to exhibit at everyone, that you can have an expert be called upon and say, please come to my event and sell in front of all these people because you are an amazing expert in this industry. I think you forget that that's part of it. There's all these strategic.
And one other, not to belabor this, but when you do exhibit at an event, do more than your stupid 10 by 10 curtain with a big brochure sitting there, right? Make that event your event, right? Truly make your booth, make your thing that you do in that event an event. And I see so many exhibitors fail to do that. They literally they throw the two youngest employees into the booth with a bunch of brochures and a placard hanging in the back of the booth, and they go, "This is us exhibiting at an event." It's like, gosh,
oh my God,
what a wasted opportunity.
Don't get me on this tangent. A couple months ago, I talked to a sponsor of Content Entrepreneur Expo, and they were saying the last year that they didn't get a lot out of the exhibit booth experience. And I said, of course you didn't. I said, you had nothing there. You had a sign, and you had a young guy on his phone the entire time looking down at it. Why would anybody go to your individual experience within? And I said, if you're going to do that again, please don't come. Yeah. Like, you make us look bad too doing that. We have to focus on the experience in all
the totality of the experience.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So if your person is just not even, paying attention, or they don't care, or there's no reason to go to that place, then you're doing us a disservice too. So that's right. So please go. Yeah. That didn't, our event, our sponsor lead on that wasn't happy with my.
No, I can imagine.
With my, you go home.
Yeah.
You go home. We don't need.
You go home.
Kind of what Elon did to the advertisers.
No soup for you.
We don't need you. You leave.
Okay. Let's have a question from our audience. We got a wonderful question. We got a number of emails over the holiday, which was
thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Thisoldmarketing.com.
Yeah.
Submit your
some
question or comment.
some really good stuff. But this one stuck out. And it's from, and mostly it stuck out for me because he pays a lot of compliments to me. And that's always going to win the day. It's Clayton. He's down in Perth, which I've always wanted to get to Perth.
I never did make the
No,
6 hour or 5 hour plane
hard,
trip.
yeah,
from
it's a
Sydney.
hard place to get to. It's like Cleveland. It's a hard place to get to.
But it's worth it.
But once you're there, it's worth it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, stay for a while.
Anyway, Clayton from Perth says, basically, I'm a huge fan, as always, of everything you do. Look forward to it all, including the NFL talk. No, I'm making that up. He didn't say that part. Okay. He says, Clayton says, I'm still trying to get my content marketing agency off the ground here in Perth. Content marketing is still a brand new idea here, so it's slow going. Any insights about leveling up from small business clients as a solo operator to large clients with bigger budgets would be amazing. Part of the issue, says Clayton, is that I've worked with mostly small businesses for my digital marketing career. So moving up to medium and large businesses who have proper marketing budgets is almost like starting again. Spoiler alert, it is, especially here in ye old Perth. This old marketing keeps me excited and pumped about the content marketing world. Still enjoy it immensely. Thank you for that. Anyway, thanks for reading. No doubt you get too much fan mail, blah, blah, blah. No, we never get too much fan mail. By the way, and Star Trek nerds, thank you very much. There we go. That's you're already my friend, Clayton. Rants and Raves, and basically live long and prosper. Keep telling it well. That's right. So thank you, Clayton. Great question. I have some thoughts for Clayton.
Go ahead. Why don't you share your thoughts? You have probably a better take, but I do have a take on this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Clayton, one of the things that I've always said to my smaller business clients, agency clients especially, is market where you're going, not where you are. And what that means basically is, I would imagine, I didn't see your website and I haven't seen your marketing materials, obviously, but I would suspect it probably looks, because you've designed it this way, to be geared toward SMBs. You probably have SMB case studies and testimonials, and you're probably, you look like you're for small businesses. And the one thing that you have to, when you start getting into enterprise work, and by the way, it is harder to go upstream than it is downstream. So you do have a bit more of a challenge than if you were going the other way around, I will tell you, you've got to look bigger. You've got to, one of the things that I was keen on doing when I was the CMO of that little tiny software company, and we were making the move to go upstream into enterprise, is you have to look bigger than you are. That means more content. It means more sophisticated content. It means a more sophisticated kind of experience. It means targeting the words that, it's just a different persona that you're going after. And so much of it depends on marketing where you're, like where you want to go with this, and making yourself look like the competition, making yourself look like you belong in that spot. So that's both a marketing, a content, and you have to start from a content marketing perspective. You have to start telling those stories, even though you don't have the customer stories to tell there yet. You have to start telling those enterprise level stories. So you have to appear from the outside to be a lot bigger than you are. Now, obviously, you're a small agency. You're not going to handle huge, gigantic projects, but it's kind of the same work. I get where you're going, because your content marketing services are kind of the same services that you're offering to SMBs as you are to enterprises. So it's a process. It takes time. And what you want to do is not try and do both, right? In other words, don't try and communicate both. Communicate the one where you're going.
That's right.
Assuming that you're going to get the SMBs as you continually have your engine running, and however you're getting those leads and new business now. And the whole thing is, if I boil it down to one thing, is you've got to look the part. In other words, and by the way, that means charging as much too. It goes to everything from your revenue management, how you're handling your revenue, and what you're, how you're bidding projects. Don't bid it like a small business. Like it's time to up your cost. It's time to up your game. It's time to up everything in terms of the way that you're messaging and telling your story. So I hope that's a little helpful.
No, that's really good. I mean, and put some patience into it. It's going to take a while for you.
It's going to take a while.
Prospects.
Yeah.
But I mean, it reminds me too, Robert, when you and we had this discussion, I think it was in 12 or 13, probably the end of 12, when we said, if we're going to position CMI for real success, we've got to go and target enterprise marketers. That's going to be our focus. So we had to change everything about what we were doing, especially our content. So our content and our blog would focus a lot more on complex content issues that you would see in an enterprise, and not what everybody else was putting out there around their content marketing for small business stuff. So I would say a couple things, like your own content marketing has to focus on going upstream to whatever you're talking about. Yep. And since you don't have the clients yet, whatever the thing is, if it's a podcast or it's a newsletter, go and recruit enterprise folks that you would want as a client and put them into your content, because you don't have the case studies yet, but you can get them on your podcast. You can get them in your newsletter. Exactly. You can get quotes from them, those types of
things. Have them tell their story.
Exactly. And all the things that you're doing. And that'll be a 9 to 12 month process. And after 12 months, you'll have lots of enterprise folks, marketers that are talking on your site, that are in your podcast, that are doing the things and then when people come to your site, they'll say, oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for. This makes sense. So I like,
and whatever you do, don't differentiate. If you're going after the enterprise, after spending as much time as you have in small business, don't differentiate on the fact that you're smaller and that you're
more nimble,
or all that stuff. No, you're find other ways to differentiate what you do and the way you do it. Whether that's you specialize in an industry, or you specialize in a particular kind of technology, or whatever it is, the key is that your enterprise buyer doesn't want to feel like they're settling. In other words, they don't want to feel like they're coming down in order to engage you because of lack of budget or whatever. They may have lack of budget, but they don't want to feel that way. Right. They want to feel like they're getting a sophisticated enterprise product because they're so big and they're so, they always think of themselves as being very complex, when usually their issues are no more complex than SMBs. They just have more of them, quite honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. No, I like your take on it.
All right.
Act the part. Act the part.
That's it. Yeah. Be it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be it.
Dream it. Do it.
Okay. Well, now let's get to our rants and raves very quickly here, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like our team is 11-5, or that our team is the Philadelphia Eagles.
or Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, there you go.
I had to say it. I'm sorry.
You just made an enemy.
It doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't.
So, although I do have to shout out, Mike Tomlin, I think it's year 17 in a row of a non-losing record.
It's amazing. He's an amazing coach.
Pretty darn amazing.
He's an amazing coach.
Pretty darn amazing.
That whole organization, the Steelers organization, just full stop,
absolutely
has been one of the classiest, best organizations.
No, they should do what the Browns do: is spend $230 million on a quarterback you're not going to use, and go get the guy off the couch.
Exactly.
Throw you some touchdown passes. That's how it's done. Exactly. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Why don't you go first?
Okay. Let me show this on the screen so we have it. So this is from Published Press. I thought this was interesting, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, Robert, because I'm seeing this, and I'm talking to a lot of content entrepreneurs that are doing this as well. And it's basically it's called creator downsizing, but maybe you and I have had these discussions about right sizing your organization. Yeah. And I think what happened with a lot of content creators in 21 and 22, as we saw the boom in the creator economy, you saw them doing everything. It's like, oh no, we got to do the merch thing, and then we gotta get on TikTok, and we're gonna do YouTube, and we got to do the podcast, and then the e-newsletter, and they were doing all the things. And when everything's up, it's great. But then what we saw is over the past year is you didn't see all this free flowing money. You didn't have just sponsors just throwing money at you for whatever reason. And now you're seeing content creators make some really wise strategy decisions and say, look, we don't have to have 10 people on staff. We don't have to have a whole group of people devoted to our merchandise strategy. We can figure out that and say, look, we're going to focus on, let's say, the podcast or the newsletter as our base. And we're going to have these 4 or 5 revenue streams, and we're going to be really smart about this thing. And we're not going to grow faster than we need to grow. And you're seeing it in this. I'll put this in the show notes, obviously, but there's a number of content creators that they talk about that made some really tough decisions to downsize. And I don't think downsizing is the right word. I think it's what you would say is right sizing.
Yeah.
And then that would be, by the way, that's for content marketers as well. Now is a really good time to look at your organization and say, you know, are we doing some things we shouldn't be doing? And by saying no to some of those things, we can say a big resounding yes to some things that we should be more focused on.
That's right.
So,
yeah. And I think too, there's a trend here as well that's worth mentioning, which is, I think what happens a lot, it happened with me, for sure, is that a lot of these creators get into business, start succeeding fast, start hiring people, and think of themselves like like a creator media company instead of a media company. And what I mean by that is that so much of the creator's business and ideas and content is centered on that creator, right? But what you find is that those that hire these people, they hire from the bottom up. And what ends up happening is that the creator then turns into a CEO instead of a creator. In other words, they're managing the people of the media company instead of managing their own creator ness, as it were. The smart ones that I've seen really make this work are building media companies where they hire a CEO. One of their first hires is a CEO or a leader who then builds the infrastructure underneath them so that they maintain their ability to do the things that they need to do. But finding that person who wants to run the business for you and not be out front, basically the behind the scenes, sort of maestro, as it were. Boy, those people are exceedingly hard to find.
Great point. I would also say that a lot of I talked to somebody this morning, really nice gentleman, came out of media, starting his own creator business. And the first point of business was to find an office. And I'm like, no, you don't, right. You don't need to do. It's like, he says, I don't want to, I have to get out of my house because I don't work well here. I'm like, okay, well, find a coffee shop or something like you. One of your advantages is that you don't have the overhead of an office.
Yeah.
So your goal, if you're going to survive, is to keep those kinds of costs as low as possible. And to your point, take the money that you do have and put it into things that are going to make you create even better content.
Exactly.
And distribute that in the right places. So
that's right. Yeah. So basically delegate the things, create the things that help you keep doing the things that you do well. And, and maybe that's, becoming the CEO of your company and expanding out your creators or whatever you're doing. So you're building a bit more of a diversified media company. But at what I see so many people doing is creating that sort of, I'm the center, I'm the center of this business's universe, right? I am the personality. I am the creator that is the face, the presence, the audio, everything about this business. And then they start losing time to be able to do all those things because they're spending their time managing, marketing and accounting and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Good point. All right. You got yours?
All right. I do. Basically, this is a story that came up in Marketing Brew. It's a really, other than Ryan's fascination with his puns in the beginning, it's a really good argument. And he talks a lot about in this article about advertisers and their efforts to clean up clickbait. And in particular, what he talks about are MFA websites. And you've all seen these without maybe knowing what the acronym means. You know what MFA websites are. They're called made for advertising sites. They're basically these trash sites that are, that you see on your Facebook feed and you see occasionally where I see them all the time for sports. There's tons of them in sports, right? Where it's all memes. It's all basically clickbaits to pull you through to some one paragraph article that is surrounded by programmatic advertising. And what he makes the point of is that MFA inventory, so all of this inventory has been, it's been a huge issue. And I've seen it doing the research work I've done into programmatic and how much I hate programmatic advertising. It's been an issue for a long, long time and, years, but it's really come to a head over the last couple of years as he points out in the article, 15%. So this is the ANA number. This is an Association of National Advertisers. They did a research and found that 15% of programmatic open web advertising went to MFA sites. So think about that for a second. You've got 15% of your programmatic spend going to these crap sites. Additionally, the viewability of ads has come down to being 70% viewable. In other words, 70% of your ads are as good as it's going to get, according to the IAB and the ANA. So in other words, you've got 70% viewability on the ads for the media you're spending, and 15% of that spend is then going to this crap site. So I'm not good enough to do the combined math there, but it basically means there is a huge tax on your marketing spend. And the article goes on to describe how they've been looking to sort of police this and get better at it. But this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And the reason is because, and we talked a little bit about this in our prediction show, the AI idea. You've now got, I saw a statistic that it went from 120 sites to more than 300 sites that this journalistic organization has now found for news sites that are completely generated by artificial intelligence content. There's no humans behind them at all. And those are going to be MFA sites for sure, because that's really the only way they can make money, is trying to rank as best they can. And by the way, just creating commoditized content automatically and try and draw as much traffic as they can and arbitrage that traffic with programmatic advertising. So it's going to get a lot worse this year, especially in a politics year. You're going to see a lot more of this. And so one of the things that I've been talking about a lot recently, and actually just wrote my article on for this week's CMI article, is the tension of there's a new thing called, well, not a new thing, but it's a re-rise, if you will, or a repopularity of what are called attention metrics, there are new ways to use AI actually in analytics to look at things like attention, where they're doing things like eye scanning and dwell time and a combination of all these sort of that publishers, that more notable or reputable publishers are starting to do to really give better value, so where to place your inventory. So it's a trend and attention that I want to call attention to, which is trying to move, because the push is going to be forced to do more and more automated advertising. And I think the real trend is to be focused more and more on brand level quality publishing, manual media buys, which are going to be much more productive to getting around that tax that we have to pay now on programmatic. So it's yet another nail in the coffin for me of programmatic advertising as a means of marketing, as an efficient marketing tactic. So there you go.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of brands that do quite a bit of advertising that say they're moving to deeper, larger deal sizes with some of the publishers, fewer publishers, fewer, so that they have a little bit more control over it. They get a little bit more value add, let's say, 100%. In those, but they know the people that they're dealing with, and it's not programmatic in any way. And
sponsorship too, and sponsorship as opposed to programmatic, right? Just full on run of site, full on just sponsoring content. That's really happening, by the way, in streaming media, where you're starting to get a lot more like full sponsorship of a show rather than sort of, in between ads.
Yeah. So, I think I would say you should see more of that on network TV in 24.
Totally,
I would say that
100%.
This is broad. Yeah. What was it? Was it, I don't know if it was Thursday Night Football. Maybe it was Sunday night. It was one of those that they brought the fourth quarter. Was
Peacock.
Brought to you.
Yeah, I almost talked about it in this.
The fourth quarter was
the Bills
advertising.
Yep.
Who paid for that? Courtesy of AT&T or something like that?
Yeah, it was a sponsor. I can't remember the single sponsor, but they basically.
So it's terrible. We should remember the sponsor, because but I can't remember that. But
I didn't watch the game, so I didn't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a Cowboys game, so why would you watch it? But you do watch a lot of Browns games, which is.
I do,
because I get up to date when things happen. You text me, I'm like, wow, you're watching it. Like,
of course, 100%. That's why I called this. I called this season for the Browns,
because I think
the Browns should thank me.
I think I predicted a 6-11 or a 7-10 season, hoping it was the other way around.
Yeah, and I knew it was
so next year,
and I knew, by
regardless
the
of
way,
what
your
happens,
quarterback was going to get hurt. So,
well, get this one.
Yeah.
They have another quarterback starting on Sunday.
I know.
It could be their.
Well, they want to
fifth.
save Flacco. Yeah, they want to save Flacco.
Flacco's taking the week off because they don't need
Yeah.
the victory, and
That's
so
right.
they'll have another quarter. That could be the fifth different quarterback they have with a victory this year.
Who is it? Do you know?
I don't know. They just got they brought him on another one off the couch.
Okay,
but they want to give Flacco the week off.
Nice, yeah, of course, yeah.
So and they want to rest all their regular quarterbacks, so they're bringing the guy in and hopefully,
yeah,
because Cincinnati doesn't have anything to play for anyways. They're done.
That's true. That's true. So, no, well, neither do the Commodores.
The Commodores.
Yeah, that's what I call them. The Commodores or the Commodes. But yeah.
That's funny. I like that.
All right. Well, it's getting crowdy in here, so
okay.
we need to wrap this thing up.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning into our first show of the new year. I hope this is a great podcast that you will keep it going for this year and have all sorts of big plans for you. Do go leave us a review, won't you? If you would be so kind, we would love to get and feed the algorithm a little bit. But in the meantime, until we see you next week, we will see you next week. Of course, just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.